I discreetly captured evidence of my wife's infidelity to present in court. Greetings! It's time for yet another extraordinary tale from our realm of space. It appears that my wife may have been unfaithful with my coworker. Please be advised that if you are acquainted with the initial segment of the narrative, you may utilize the timestamp to proceed directly to the subsequent update. Greetings, everyone. I find myself in this situation, yet I'm uncertain of the next steps to take. I have deep affection for my wife, yet I find myself feeling quite anxious about the possibility that she may be engaging in activities unbeknownst to me. I find it difficult to communicate with friends and family due to feelings of embarrassment and confusion. I suspect that my colleague may have had an affair with my wife, and the evidence seems to support this possibility. In 2014, I, a 36-year-old male, encountered my wife, a 32-year-old female, at a mall in our city. I spotted my wife, whom I'll refer to as Gabby, standing in line at the food court. Interestingly, I intended to visit a different restaurant, but the queue was excessively long. As I joined the queue at the restaurant, my gaze fell upon her at the front. When our eyes met, I was struck by her stunning beauty. Upon seeing me, she chuckled and remarked that she wasn't waiting in line for food. Gabby mentioned that her cousin was employed there, and she was patiently awaiting her exit. I was absolutely thrilled that she initiated a conversation with me, as I was at a loss for words to express to her. As a result, I successfully initiated a conversation with humor while she awaited her cousin. I could tell that I was certainly creating a positive first impression with her. I inquired if she would like me to purchase some food for her while she awaited her cousin, to which she responded that she preferred a strawberry lemonade instead. Following the purchase, our conversation flowed effortlessly as I maintained a playful and charming demeanor with her. Upon her cousin's departure, I requested her number, which she graciously provided before they left. Subsequently, I took every possible measure to enchant her completely. Following a series of dates and social gatherings with our respective friends, we officially entered into a dating relationship. In 2017, Gabby and I got married. Following the arrival of our 3 children, we established our own family unit. Having welcomed 2 daughters and a son as our middle child, we have evolved into exceptional parents for our children. Although it presented its challenges, we made the decision to forego frequent outings to clubs and concerts. Nevertheless, we still managed to carve out moments of enjoyment from time to time. Our nightlife was undeniably diminished. I felt incredibly fortunate to have Gabby as my wife. Her character was truly remarkable, and her stunning beauty even earned me compliments from my friends. Gabby is of Cuban descent and resembles a blend of the actress who portrayed Wonder Woman and Salma Hayek. She possesses a curvaceous figure, adorned with tattoos on her arms, and consistently sports a ponytail. She is easily recognizable by her signature ponytail, which she often showcases in her selfies. I earn a respectable income as a maintenance professional. Gabby and her sister are accomplished interior decorators who earn a substantial income as well. Her sister holds the title of interior designer. Gabby quickly joined the team upon recognizing its growing success. I have a deep appreciation for my role, having dedicated 7 years to this organization. However, I never anticipated that anyone here would approach my wife. Last Wednesday, the trouble arose. A gentleman is employed in the shipping department. We shall refer to him as Daryl. Daryl and I are not close friends. Rather, he is an acquaintance with whom I engage in conversation during lunch. The most time I spent with him was likely during our dice games in the parking lot at work. Our interactions are limited to lunchtime discussions centered around basketball games. One weekend, my car experienced brake issues, preventing me from driving it to work. Consequently, my wife kindly drove me there and later picked me up. On her initial visit, she inadvertently arrived too early and found herself waiting approximately 30 minutes for my arrival. Upon exiting, I observed her engaged in laughter and conversation with Daryl and a female colleague from the office. We shall refer to her as Brianna. Following the introduction of my wife, we engaged in brief conversation before departing. Reflecting on the past, I believe that is the moment it all started. I suspect that Daryl may have influenced my wife, and it all began that week when she came to pick me up from work. After finishing work, I would find my wife spending time with Daryl and Brianna. They would be in the office, enjoying each other's company while listening to rap music on Daryl's Beats by Dre, seamlessly connected to his phone. Gabby expressed her enjoyment of conversing with Brianna and mentioned that she would spend time in the office alongside her and Daryl. I was aware that Brianna and Daryl resided near one another, which fostered their friendship. Consequently, it didn't particularly concern me to see him in their company. Since that week, Gabby began visiting my workplace to converse and spend time with Daryl and Brianna. As Brianna was meant to be Gabby's friend, I had no objections to her occasional visits or phone conversations. However, I failed to notice Daryl's presence while conversing with Gabby. My wife attracts considerable attention, particularly on Instagram, which has prompted me to remain composed, even when I noticed Gabby and Daryl conversing in the absence of Brianna. Rushing to conclusions would only frustrate Gabby, leading to daily arguments in Spanish. Last Wednesday, my concerns regarding the possibility of my wife being unfaithful surfaced. As I was departing from my workplace one day, I bid farewell to a colleague who was also a friend. At that moment, he was on the phone and he also bid farewell. I paused when he informed the individual on the other end that it was I bidding him farewell, and my curiosity was piqued as he uttered my name as if this person was familiar with me. I inquired about the person he was conversing with, and he merely smiled, indicating it was a former colleague of ours. He instructed me to wait, mentioning that this individual wished to speak with me briefly. When he handed me the phone, I felt a genuine sense of happiness to hear from this individual. I recently had a conversation with my former colleague, whom I shall refer to as Tyrell. We reconnected, although I remain uncertain about the reasons for his departure. He mentioned that his brother was employed at a warehouse in Atlanta, and Tyrell indicated that he relocated there because his brother assured him of a job alongside him. He then chose to emphasize his point by playfully mentioning how he now earns more than we do. Following our conversation, he expressed a desire to obtain my phone number, indicating he wished to discuss a particular matter with me. I agreed, and he instructed me to send him my number via direct message on Facebook. I agreed and returned my friend's phone to him. Upon receiving the number, he called without delay. I have not yet reached my car. I inquired about what was going on. He inquired whether I was in the car, to which I responded affirmatively. He advised against driving just yet, as he had something important to share with me. This seemed quite peculiar, so I inquired about what he meant. He instructed me not to share this information with anyone, and I consented. He inquired whether Gabby was still visiting my workplace, and I found it quite surprising. I affirmed with a yes. He inquired whether Daryl was still in communication with Gabby, to which I affirmed. His questions about them were making me quite anxious. He mentioned that he wasn't interested in initiating anything, but he suspects that Daryl had an affair with my wife. He mentioned that, as he is no longer part of our team, he feels indifferent and wanted to convey this to me. Hearing this sent a significant chill down my spine. I inquired how he came to know this, and he replied that he had seen them. During his time with us, Tyrell served as a floor leader, facilitating our movement across the various departments. He mentioned that during his walks, he frequently observed Gabby and Daryl engaged in conversation. He confided to our colleagues that he had a strong attraction to Gabby and often made remarks regarding her appearance. I inquired of Tyrell when he would encounter them together, and he responded that it would be nearly an hour prior to lunch. He mentioned that he occasionally observed her conversing with Brianna, but he noticed her engaging in conversation with Daryl more frequently. Tyrell mentioned that despite appearances suggesting he was flirting with Gabby, he remained uncertain about any developments until her Saturday visits occurred, coinciding with Daryl's department's overtime schedule. I found this to be quite unexpected, as I rarely put in extra hours. Her presence there was perplexing. I inquired of Tyrell whether he was certain she was present on Saturdays, to which he confidently affirmed his certainty. He expressed a strong belief that Daryl could have been involved with her during her visit one Saturday. With the weekend offering limited activities, they found themselves with ample free time, and Daryl would have his Beats by Dre speaker playing music. Although Gabby was present and socializing, Tyrell found this to be quite ordinary. Eventually, he returned and mentioned that he had heard vibrant Spanish music resonating in the air. Tyrell observed that the situation with Gabby and the guys was becoming increasingly intimate. He stated that Daryl had Gabby by her neck as she performed for him. My wife wasn't precisely voluptuous, but she possessed enough to twerk if she chose to. I was taken aback when Tyrell shared this with me. I inquired if he was certain, to which he confidently affirmed his absolute certainty, stating that he was not blind. He remarked that everyone observed as she playfully bounced it for him, and he even lifted her shirt to reveal her figure in her leggings. I inquired whether she attempted to intervene with Daryl, and he responded that she did not. He claimed that all she did was laugh and dance provocatively for him while he held her by her neck. He remarked that she appeared as though she were competing in a contest. I was astonished by what I heard from Tyrell. He expressed his apologies, and I must ensure my wife remains distanced from him. He mentioned that Brianna is included as well. I expressed my gratitude for the information shared and concluded the call shortly thereafter. This experience left me feeling quite humiliated. As I drove home, my mind was in a whirlwind. What could have been worse was Gabby twerking for Daryl, which must have occurred around 7 or 8 months ago. It remains uncertain what has transpired since that time. It is likely that they went to his residence, where she engaged in activities beyond mere twerking. I needed to inquire with Gabby about the situation and determine if she would be forthcoming with the truth. Upon returning home, I found my wife engaged in a phone conversation with her mother. Following some casual conversation, I inquired whether she had met with Brianna today, to which she responded affirmatively. I inquired if she had seen Daryl too, and she replied that she had not. I expressed my genuine surprise to her, as they appeared to embody the essence of the Three Musketeers. She mentioned that Daryl isn't around very often, and it would just be her and Brianna, which I recognize as complete nonsense. Following that, my wife walked by me and entered the kitchen to retrieve her phone, likely to start texting her friends. I was astonished to discover that my wife had been completely dishonest with me regarding her relationship with Daryl. I couldn't help but observe how frequently he was in her presence, and it pained me to acknowledge what was becoming increasingly evident. Following that, I could only observe her preparing dinner for our children, feeling a deep sadness about the current situation. I am experiencing a deep sense of sadness, and my emotions have led me to a mix of anger and tears. At this moment, I require evidence that something is occurring. However, this task will prove challenging as it involves my colleagues. I am concerned about the possibility of losing my job, and I cannot rely on what Tyrell mentioned, as it was merely twerking, which does not suffice for a divorce. Furthermore, they will both simply deny that it occurred. Additionally, my wife can mention that she was delivering lunch to Daryl or something similar, and the elderly security guard would grant her access. I must conclude that my wife has been unfaithful to me. 8 months ago, my wife had a clandestine meeting with Daryl, during which she performed a twerk for him. A considerable amount of time has elapsed, leaving uncertainty about what may have transpired in the interim. I require guidance on obtaining concrete evidence to support my case in the event that all claims are accurate for the divorce proceedings. I must exercise caution, as I wish to safeguard my employment, and I am aware that her family may confront me if I fail to obtain evidence. I will provide an update once I determine the appropriate course of action. Update 1. I would like to express my gratitude to everyone for providing me with information on how to stay informed about the situation involving my wife and my coworker, whom I suspect she may be involved with. It provided significant support, particularly as I was unable to reach out to family and friends due to potential embarrassment. The situation has been escalating, and I have observed numerous troubling signs. It is certainly plausible that my coworker has been involved with my wife. To update everyone on the situation, my wife Gabby had to come and pick me up from work due to my car requiring new brakes. While I was finishing up at work, Gabby took the opportunity to meet and forge friendships with Brianna, the front office staff member, and Daryl, a coworker from the shipping department. Upon leaving the floor, I often observed them engaged in conversations while listening to rap music. Having established a strong friendship with them, my wife would visit my workplace on her days off to spend time with them during their lunch breaks. Recently, I received a call from a former colleague that left me feeling utterly devastated. A former colleague of ours, Tyrell, mentioned that Daryl may have had an inappropriate interaction with my wife. He mentioned that he observed them conversing in private, and it appeared as though they were engaging in flirtation. He mentioned that this would occur an hour prior to Daryl's lunch, which raised significant suspicions. It was even more disheartening when he mentioned that during their Saturday overtime, Gabby would come to visit them. Initially, he mentioned that he would remain silent, but one Saturday, he witnessed something that compelled him to share it with me after Tyrell departed. He mentioned that upon arriving at the shipping dock, he was greeted by the sounds of Spanish music resonating in the air. He mentioned that, upon looking in, he observed my wife dancing and twerking for Daryl. Initially, he mentioned that they were merely engaging in playful behavior. However, the situation escalated to become sexual and aggressive. He stated that Gabby permitted him to grasp her by the neck and raise her shirt to view her backside. Initially, he mentioned that they were merely having fun, yet he could sense the shift towards something more significant, particularly in the way they gazed at one another. Initially, I found myself justifying my wife's actions, inquiring if he was certain it was indeed her. He dismissed that assertion by confidently stating that it was indeed her, particularly given that Gabby was Cuban, adorned with tattoos on her arms, and consistently sported a ponytail. After witnessing that, Tyrell stated that he departed to return home. I was utterly astonished by what he was conveying to me. It is concerning that my wife was twerking on Daryl, especially considering this incident occurred 8 or 9 months ago. A considerable amount of time had elapsed, leaving one to wonder what she might be doing for Daryl now. I appreciate Tyrell bringing this to my attention. However, it seems he may have shared this information a bit too late. I regret that he didn't have the courage to speak up at the time. It seems that, because of him, Daryl certainly reached my wife. It all stemmed from his reluctance to betray Daryl. Upon arriving home, I inquired with Gabby regarding her friendship with Daryl. She mentioned that she occasionally speaks with Daryl, but he isn't often present, and she typically converses with Brianna instead. I recognized this as nonsense because there were instances when I witnessed it firsthand. Thanks to Tyrell, I now understand the dynamics of her game. She leveraged her friendship with Brianna as a pretext to genuinely connect with Daryl. Following my conversation with Tyrell and listening to Gabby's falsehoods regarding her and Daryl, I started to discreetly observe my wife throughout the house. I am unable to access her iPhone due to a complex passcode, and she frequently uses it to chat with her mother and sister daily. I found myself eavesdropping on her conversations, particularly those she held late at night, which troubled me. She would step onto the back porch to engage in conversation, while I would quietly exit through our side door to eavesdrop on her discussions. Upon listening, it became evident that she was likely conversing with Daryl. I would hear her exclaim, "Stop, you're out of your mind." Indeed, we enjoyed ourselves. In a particular club located in the suburban region of our residence, I distinctly heard her express, "I can't go over there." I believe they intended to go to his house, but based solely on one perspective, I couldn't be entirely certain. Upon her arrival, I inquired about whom she was conversing with, to which she responded that it was her sister Brianna or perhaps someone else. The incessant giggling and hushed conversations indicated to me that it was entirely untrue. It was at that moment that I must have been oblivious prior to Tyrell's call, as I became acutely aware of nothing but red flags thereafter. She is rarely seen without her phone these days. She doesn't communicate with me and claims to be busy. When I expressed my desire to be intimate, she found it amusing and remarked that she didn't want to engage with our children in the house. When I inquired about when that has ever hindered us, Gabby would respond by saying to just leave her alone and that I was being unreasonable. She mentioned that, in addition, she wasn't feeling inclined. The events leading up to and following Tyrell's call suggest that my wife may not have been faithful. What led me to believe that all of this was typical? Last Saturday, I believe I inadvertently caused her to miss an opportunity to be with Daryl, and she was quite upset. Upon finishing my workday, I received a call from Gabby as I was making my way home. She mentioned her intention to go out once more and indicated that I would need to prepare dinner for the children. I promptly concluded that she intended to meet with Daryl and fabricated a response, stating that I would be running errands prior to returning home. She mentioned that she was preparing to leave, and I suggested that she ask her sister to look after the kids, fully aware that she wouldn't be able to. After attempting to manipulate my feelings to keep her at home, I informed Gabby that I have the right to go out and engage in activities as well, and I might not return until later. Gabby dismissed the conversation and ended the call abruptly. Later that evening, she displayed a confrontational demeanor towards me, and when I uttered merely 2 words, she erupted in anger. She claimed that I spoiled her evening, to which I responded that it was of no concern to me. I explained to her that my need to run errands took precedence over her desire to simply hang out. Gabby mentioned that I didn't mention anything regarding running errands when I pointed out that she hadn't said anything about going out. When I inquired about her companions, she simply advised me to let it go. Upon exiting the shower, I observed her on the porch engaged in a phone conversation. Given her irritated expression, I have no doubt she was referring to me. However, a few days ago, the situation took a turn for the worse. Upon concluding my workday, that evening, Gabby prepared dinner. She entered the bedroom where I was browsing some new Jordans on my phone and informed me that dinner was ready. Upon entering the dining room, I found her fully dressed and preparing to depart. I inquired about her destination. She mentioned that she would be going out with some friends and that I needed to take care of the kids. I inquired about her plans for the evening, and Gabby simply replied that she would be spending time with her friends once more. I informed her that she cannot simply leave without consideration, and she responded by asking me to cease my attempts to control her actions. Following that, she exited the door with a distinct attitude. I was extremely frustrated because I understood the situation clearly. She remained upset about the Saturday when she was unable to see Daryl, and it was clear that this had affected her mood since then. My wife returned home at approximately 2:30 in the morning. Throughout the entire night, I was engaged in texting her, yet her sole response was a request for me to cease messaging her, which left me feeling quite frustrated. Upon her arrival, I was engaged in a game on our son's PlayStation, and upon noticing her, a disagreement ensued between us. I inquired about the reason for her late return home. She mentioned that she was spending time with her friends, and I had no interest in hearing any of it. I informed her that I was meant to be in bed, yet here I was, waiting for her return home. She mentioned that I never complained when she arrived late in the past, and noted that I was always by her side, so that argument doesn't hold any weight. She berated me, claiming I was attempting to control her, to which I responded that it was utter nonsense. Eventually, our son emerged to investigate the commotion and inquired about the situation. Following that, Gabby declared that she would no longer engage in an argument with me and abruptly retreated to the bedroom. As the video game played on, my son inquired if he could have a turn. I informed him that he could play for a brief period, after which he would need to return to his slumber. Once he agreed, he began playing the game while I sought to continue my discussion with Gabby. I refused to allow her to manipulate the narrative regarding my role as a controlling husband. She was the individual arriving late. I consistently endeavored to maintain my composure, yet my doubts ultimately prevailed. Arriving at 2 a.m. was inconsiderate, particularly given the manner in which she departed. Following our disagreement, I retreated to our bedroom to further discuss the timing of her departure. As I entered the bedroom, I intended to engage in a debate, but I found myself halting mid-sentence at the sight before me. Upon entering the room, I observed my wife disrobing, revealing what appeared to be a black string as her choice of underwear. It seems my wife was taken aback when I entered, perhaps expecting to find me still with our son. My wife stood there, adorned in a delicate piece of string, and in that moment, I perceived her as the embodiment of thought itself. After a fleeting glance in my direction, she cast a look that clearly conveyed, "If you inquire, we are merely destined for a disagreement." Once she retrieved her pajamas from the bed, she made her way to the bathroom to change. I was utterly astonished by what I witnessed. It halted me in my tracks and left me feeling devastated. I resolved to sleep on the couch, as the situation was bound to become uncomfortable afterward. My mind was rendered incapable of processing information after witnessing that. I have never observed my wife donning a thong or undergarment of that nature. It was nearly her exposed backside adorned in a black string garment. To be fair, Gabby possesses alluring underwear, though it has been quite some time since she last wore them. During our vacations, she enjoys donning alluring bikinis, primarily for her Instagram posts. Despite that, the string she was wearing resembled something you'd see on World Star. At this juncture, I have observed my wife, and it is undeniably marked by an air of suspicion and secrecy. Upon my arrival here, I noticed numerous suggestions urging me to document her engaging in or uttering highly incriminating remarks, so I am already taking action on that front. I have purchased a voice-activated recording device, and I intend to place it in her car. I inquired with a friend if I could utilize his address for the delivery, and he readily agreed without hesitation. I will collect it once he receives it in the mail. I certainly do not want her to notice the package and inquire about its contents. I am prepared to uncover the full extent of this matter, regardless of the expense involved. Due to Tyrell's actions, numerous doubts have arisen regarding the finances. I will make an effort to provide updates, but I believe I can achieve this if I refrain from being confrontational and maintain a demeanor that aligns with my emotional state. Update 2. I extend my gratitude to everyone who has supported me during this time with my wife. I have received considerable support regarding my concerns about my wife's fidelity, and it has been beneficial to listen to the perspectives shared with me. This has been a challenging period, and discussions here were essential. It also empowered me to be more resilient and astute in uncovering the truth. Your support on this matter is greatly appreciated. Nonetheless, the guidance I received here has been somewhat varied regarding how to approach this matter. Certain individuals suggested that I should leverage the evidence and proof to confront her. Others suggested that I should recognize the warning signs and escalate the situation. I was contemplating my options regarding this matter, but my wife compelled me to make a decision today. Indeed, my wife has broken her vows. To update a few individuals, my wife, Gabby, had to collect me from work last year due to my car breaking down. During my work hours, Gabby formed a friendship with a colleague named Brianna, who works in the office, as well as with another coworker named Daryl. They engaged in conversation and enjoyed rap music as she patiently awaited my departure. Eventually, after my car was repaired, she would stop by during her lunch break, even when she wasn't obligated to work with her sister. Recently, I received a call from my old friend Tyrell, who used to work with us, informing me that Daryl and Gabby have been meeting up in secret. He stated that their behavior towards one another would be quite inappropriate. He mentioned that she would even come to visit him on Saturdays during their overtime shifts. Tyrell recounted a day when they were in the back, enjoying music, and he observed her twerking for Daryl. He mentioned that when Daryl raised my wife's shirt to view her backside and was holding her by the neck, he may have had physical contact with her. Due to my wife's tattoos, her consistent ponytail, and her Spanish heritage, Tyrell was able to recognize her effortlessly. He mentioned that she would bring him lunch and they would spend time together, casually chatting, as there was little actual work to be done on Saturdays. I was taken aback to learn that she has been up there, considering I have never worked overtime. Upon returning home, I inquired with Gabby regarding her relationship with Daryl, and she clarified that she does not consider herself to have a friendship with him. This situation frustrated me greatly, as it was a complete falsehood, particularly given that everyone observed them together during lunch. Following this deception, I began to investigate my wife to uncover what I might discover. While Gabby and Brianna share a friendship, it's worth noting that Daryl was frequently present as well. Upon investigation, I discovered numerous warning signs. She would spend the entire night out claiming she was with friends. She would step out onto the back porch to engage in conversation on the phone. She would suddenly depart from the house without disclosing her destination. Listening in on her conversation while she was on the phone was the most unpleasant experience. Gabby would be laughing and saying things such as, "You're out of your mind. I regret to inform you that I will not be able to come over tonight." Whenever I inquired about whom she was conversing with, she would respond that it was either her sister or Brianna. My time at work felt somewhat uncomfortable, as I had not fully realized how kind everyone had been to me until this moment. I appreciate Tyrell reaching out to inform me about this. The information served as a crucial advantage, especially since they are unaware that I have been informed. My sole genuine regret is that the information is 8 months outdated, and a considerable amount of time has elapsed since that point. I was so dedicated to my job and nurturing my children that I overlooked the events unfolding around me. Tyrell made it evident that I was viewing things through a distorted lens at that moment. Gabby leveraged her friendship with Brianna as a guise to connect with Daryl. Over the past 8 months, my wife has undergone a noticeable transformation. She maintained a high level of secrecy, engaging in conversations solely with her friends and addressing me only when necessary. She often dressed up more frequently, and as she undressed after a night out that lasted until 2 in the morning, she noticed she was wearing a black string as underwear. Her choice to wear this caught my attention, as it is not typical for her to don that style of underwear. She often donned alluring bikinis during our vacations, primarily for capturing stunning photos to showcase on Instagram. It is widely recognized that string-type underwear serves not merely as an article of clothing, but rather as an accessory to be showcased to others. The sight rendered me momentarily paralyzed, prompting me to exit the room without engaging in any further discussion. Thanks to Tyrell, my world is currently in a whirlwind, and the indications are unmistakably evident. Prior to any remarks from Tyrell, I consistently endeavored to avoid exhibiting jealousy. Gabby possesses remarkable beauty and consistently receives compliments. She enjoys posting pictures on Instagram and receives considerable attention on the platform. Numerous comments on her pictures may be deemed inappropriate, and she continues to receive likes even on images that are a year old. Being in a relationship with a partner who has numerous male acquaintances online can be quite challenging for someone who struggles with jealousy. I have always been aware of this and endeavored to be understanding. However, this was a very tangible situation, and I may have relied too heavily on it, especially considering that we are now married. I sensed that this situation was on the verge of transformation, and it is essential to obtain evidence of all that has transpired. Upon acquiring a voice-activated recording device, I intended to gather evidence, and if it proved to be authentic, I sought to initiate divorce proceedings with her. Following the acquisition of a voice-activated recorder, I accompanied her to the supermarket in hopes of encouraging her to treat me with greater kindness. If there were issues in our relationship, I believed we could address them and she would distance herself from Daryl. I informed Gabby that while her outings with friends are acceptable, she must remember her responsibilities to her family as a parent. Gabby expressed that she is an independent adult and accused me of being controlling towards her. She expressed her belief that she should have the freedom to socialize with her friends rather than being confined to the house or engaged in work constantly. I expressed to her that while I understand her desire for enjoyment, the level of spontaneity was becoming excessive. She refused to disclose the time and place of her departure. Gabby expressed her agreement and indicated that she would be considerate of both me and her family. Following that, she became more attuned to my feelings, and I sensed that we could engage in deeper conversations about our relationship. However, that came to a close with a phone call from Daryl a few days ago, I suppose. Initially, I was uncertain about how to proceed, but this afternoon, she compelled me to take action. This week, Gabby mentioned that all my children are eager to watch a Pixar movie with their older cousins this Saturday. She mentioned that she would take them so they could all enjoy the movie together. I found this to be wonderful, as it was delightful to see her dedicating more time to the children. A few hours after their departure, I received a call from my nephew. He mentioned that he had heard we possessed a particular video game he was eager to try out, inquired whether he could visit after the film. I informed him that if Gabby was going to return him home, then he was welcome to come over and play the game. He expressed his excitement, stating that when Gabby arrived to pick him up after the movie, he would seize the opportunity to ask her. His statement left me utterly perplexed. I informed him that I believed Gabby was planning to watch the movie with them, to which he responded that Gabby had mentioned she would only be dropping them off. This morning, I indulged in a bit of extra sleep, leading me to believe I might have misheard him. It is clear to me that Gabby stated she was watching the movie with the children, and I recognized this as a falsehood. At that moment, I recalled that it was Saturday, and Tyrell had mentioned that Gabby would be with Daryl during the overtime shift. Considering the time, it's clear that the team would certainly still be present if they were required to work this Saturday. I attempted to reach my wife, but she did not answer the phone, which left me quite frustrated. Subsequently, I contacted my workplace. Inquiring about the securities extension, I asked the lady if the gentlemen were still working. She responded affirmatively, and I ended the call, left pondering whether she was truly with Daryl. Following that, I entered my vehicle and opted to drive to my workplace, confident that I would arrive before they departed. As I drove there, my thoughts were consumed by frustration over the challenges she was causing me. I found myself at a loss for thoughts, yet I was already consumed by a deep-seated anger. I believed we had discussed this matter thoroughly and that she had grasped the concept. This time, I was fully aware of her intentions, and I refused to let this matter slip away, particularly given that she had deceived me. If Daryl were involved with my wife, I have moved on and no longer concern myself with it. I entered the parking lot and looked for her vehicle. I quickly discovered it, and my frustration set in right away. I entered and proceeded to the shipping dock where Daryl was employed. As I entered through the double doors, Daryl's crew sprang to their feet, taken aback by my unexpected arrival. With their jackets donned, it appeared they were preparing to depart, until their eyes fell upon me. As I surveyed the area, it became clear that Daryl and Gabby were absent, leading me to conclude they must be in the trucker's lounge room. As I was returning, a member of the crew attempted to halt my progress, asserting that I did not have a rightful place within the building. I warned him to step back or he would face serious consequences, and I assured him I was not joking. He attempted to project a tough demeanor, but when he didn't stand his ground, it became clear he wasn't interested in engaging in a confrontation. I decided to stop wasting time with him and headed to the trucker's lounge where they were likely to be. The trucker's lounge was once a modest space where truckers would bide their time as they awaited the loading of their vehicles. Several years prior, a new regulation was established requiring all truck drivers to remain in their vehicles until they received their paperwork. This measure was intended to deter theft. However, I was unaware of who might be inclined to steal items during the shipping process. The room was compact, featuring just 2 vending machines that were no longer operational. I was certain I would locate them within that space, and upon hearing Daryl's groans, my assumption was confirmed. As I positioned myself near the wall, I peered inside and was astonished by the sight before me. I witnessed Daryl in an intimate encounter with my wife, and it left me in disbelief. It was already troubling to witness Daryl lounging on the couch with his shirt unbuttoned and his pants and underwear lowered, but the sight of him holding my wife's face in such a compromising position was beyond unacceptable. He resembled a dark lord amidst the mountains as he seized a village woman, compelling her to serve him at a deliberate pace. He gazed down at my wife as she knelt, demonstrating her submission. I retrieved my phone from my pocket. I sensed it would be necessary, so I retrieved it and began recording. Gabby appeared to be preoccupied, completely unaware of Daryl's gaze upon her. I managed to capture at least 7 solid seconds of this unfolding moment. Upon obtaining some evidence, I leapt out at them, shouting, "Forget you, witch!" Daryl appeared taken aback at my presence, while Gabby cast me a distinctly irritated glance. She looked up at me, her agitation evident as she inquired about my presence there. I raised my voice at her, expressing my frustration with, "Forget you, witch! Is this the way you choose to treat me?" She requested, "Could you please just leave?" It is important to note that she continues to hold him in her hand. I expressed my disapproval to both of them, and she responded by covering her face, exclaiming, "Oh my God!" I found it quite surprising, as she appeared unfazed by being caught. She appeared to be more embarrassed by my behavior in front of Daryl. Following that, I unleashed a torrent of insults. Yet all she did was roll her eyes and plead for me to leave them be and simply depart. It appeared that she simply wished for my departure, showing little concern for the fact that our marriage had come to an end. Her casual dismissal only intensified my frustration. Despite being subjected to numerous insults, her response remained consistent. She simply asked him to leave and expressed indifference. I shouted, "How could she do that to me after professing her love?" She retorted, "I don't love you like that, okay?" The news nearly knocked me off my feet, and she instructed me to simply leave once more. I informed her of my desire for a divorce, and she responded with an exasperated tone, simply saying, "Okay." Subsequently, I exited the warehouse, entered my vehicle, and proceeded to drive home. Upon arriving home, I was filled with intense anger. I struck the walls and shouted in frustration at the peak of my voice. I am truly astonished that she would act in this manner towards me. She had become someone I no longer recognized. I had reached my limit with the nonsense she was presenting to me. Currently, she has yet to return, and I find myself uncertain of her whereabouts. I imagine she is with her sister and now needs to discuss the situation with her. No matter what unfolds, I possess irrefutable evidence of her infidelity, and it is undeniably solid. I intend to utilize it extensively in various capacities, particularly during the divorce proceedings. It clearly illustrates her lack of responsibility and disregard for her own marriage. It is unfortunate to admit, but I likely should have recognized this on my own, as the indications were evident. Her affection was rooted solely in the gestures I made for her, which ultimately led to our marriage. Gabby was not in search of love. Rather, she relished the feeling of being desired. Given Daryl's appeal to her and his evident desire, they engaged in a passionate encounter. A relationship of this nature is destined to fail, as individuals like her tend to revert to their true selves. I recently purchased a voice activator recorder, but I have only utilized it once. It appeared that all I required was an individual who was no longer part of our team. Final update. Greetings to all. I extend my heartfelt gratitude to everyone for their encouraging messages and unwavering support. Your insights have truly illuminated my understanding of my wife's actions and provided me with effective strategies to address the situation. A multitude of individuals have inquired about my current situation, And at this moment, I find myself in a state of distress, feeling both betrayed and profoundly angry. It appears that some individuals believe I was hesitant to approach my wife, but that is not accurate. Upon discovering my wife's infidelity, I took decisive steps to consult a lawyer and initiate divorce proceedings. This will be my final update on this matter, as my focus will now shift to navigating court proceedings and spending time with my family and 3 children. Additionally, my wife and I experienced a significant disagreement, which I recognized was unavoidable. To summarize this situation, approximately a year ago, my wife Gabby came to my aid by picking me up from work, as my car required repairs. During her visit to pick me up for the week, she formed a friendship with a girl from the office named Brianna and a coworker named Daryl, who was stationed at the shipping dock. Initially, I was indifferent and they spent time together during breaks. Subsequently, they began to socialize beyond the confines of their workplace. Initially, I believed that Gabby exclusively spent time with Brianna. However, I soon realized I was mistaken. I received a call from a former colleague, Tyrell, who mentioned that Gabby spent more time with Daryl than with Brianna. He not only spent time with my wife, but he also informed other individuals at the shipping dock of his desire to be intimate with Gabby. He mentioned that he would meet them, and it seemed as though he was perpetually flirting with her. Tyrell expressed that he became suspicious. Tyrell mentioned that they began spending an excessive amount of time together, and one day during their overtime shift, he unexpectedly witnessed her twerking for Daryl. I was truly astonished by his words. I inquired if he was certain it was her, and due to her Cuban heritage, tattoos, and the consistent ponytail she wore, he had indeed described Gabby with precision. Following this, I conducted some investigation, and that was when I identified the warning signs. The time spent together, her constant engagement with her phone, and her choice to disregard me as her husband were increasingly validating Tyrell's observations. Individuals in this vicinity indicated that my wife would falter, and indeed, they were correct in their assessment. It felt as though Tyrell provided me with a clear direction, and all I needed to do was patiently await the moment when the way became unobstructed. Gabby mentioned that she planned to watch a Pixar movie with her children and their older cousins this past Saturday. This situation proved to be rather misleading, as my nephew, who was at the movies, mentioned that she intended to pick them up afterward. I was taken aback, as I was certain she had mentioned her intention to watch the movie. Following my time spent with him, it didn't take long for me to ascertain her whereabouts. Tyrell mentioned that Gabby would visit Daryl at his workplace during their overtime hours. During that time, Tyrell mentioned that she would be twerking for Daryl and would conclude her shift with him. Upon rising and making the drive to the job site, I entered the building. Her vehicle was present, indicating that she was with Daryl. As I approached the modest trucker's lounge, I anticipated their presence. Upon glancing inside, I discovered Gabby positioned on all fours, with Daryl in her mouth. Approximately 8 months ago, Gabby was twerking for Daryl. However, at this moment, he is holding my wife's head in his crotch. I took my phone, extended the camera lens sufficiently to capture the moment, and recorded approximately 7 seconds of this compelling evidence of the truth. Following this, I confronted both of them with a level of fury I had never displayed towards anyone before. When I raised my voice at my wife, it pained me to see her annoyance at the interruption. Daryl raised his hand, appearing more astonished than my wife. She requested that I leave, and that genuinely frustrated me. I confronted her directly, inquiring how she could act in such a manner. In response, she raised her voice, asserting that she does not love me in that way, and requested that I simply go away. When she shared that with me, I nearly lost my composure. Following that, I needed to gather my belongings and make the journey back home. After experiencing a fit of anger, I successfully composed myself. I recognized that it was time to come to terms with the reality of our situation and acknowledge that our marriage had concluded. She stated that she didn't love me in that way. So how did she love me, if at all? At that moment, I realized I had to embrace my true self in relation to her. Gabby was the kind of person who, if someone were to marry her, would need to be granted the freedom to embrace her entitled nature. I invested whatever was necessary to ensure her happiness, and she led me to believe that this was the essence of being a good husband. She behaved as though I was fortunate to be with her, considering she was a trophy, particularly given the attention she attracts. I held that belief, particularly because she was a devoted mother and initially a wonderful wife. Her feelings were not for me, but rather for the attention and affection that I diligently provided. That was also an issue. Gabby consistently sought the spotlight. This must be the reason she adored Snapchat and Instagram. She boasted a substantial following, with 80% of her audience being male. Even that was unfavorable. The comments were even more disappointing. That's why I needed to develop a tough exterior while being with her, particularly during our outings to Vegas when she posed in bikinis, as well as our trip to Jamaica. It became evident that she would not alter her course. Although she discovered someone willing to care for her, it became irrelevant when she encountered someone she found appealing. He treated her as she deserved to be treated. With everything concluded, I knew it was time to confront the reality of the situation, so I reached out to my siblings to share the details. Reluctantly, I found myself at a point where action was necessary. The initial call I made was to my older brother, whom we'll refer to as Ricky, where I expressed my frustrations about the situation, incorporating a plethora of expletives. After inquiring whether I was at home, he mentioned that he needed to make a quick errand, but he would stop by afterward. Subsequently, I reached out to my younger sister to share the news with her as well. My sister delivered a lecture, mentioning that Ricky had called her and was aware it pertained to this matter. She mentioned that she would follow up with me later before ending the call. She returned the call and informed me that Ricky would be arriving to pick me up, advising that I should accompany him. She inquired about the whereabouts of the children, and I informed her that they were at the movies, with Gabby scheduled to pick them up. She expressed dissatisfaction with the children being with her, yet given my current state of mind, it seemed there was little we could do. Once I hung up, I began to drift into slumber, only to be stirred by the sound of my brother Ricky arriving. As I opened the door, I noticed my brother approaching, a bag slung over one shoulder and his toolbox firmly in hand. My brother has a rather imposing appearance. He played football in both high school and college. With his bald head and beard, he resembles someone who has just returned from military service. He approached me and enveloped me in a warm embrace. My brother and I often assumed the tough guy persona when it came to our emotions, yet I found myself with tears in my eyes, as we both understood that this was exactly what I needed. Following the embrace, he informed me that he had made a stop at the store and purchased new locks for the house. He expressed that the last thing he wanted was to leave, only for Gabby to come in afterward and take everything. Following an hour of discussion and lock changes, we departed for Ricky's residence. Ricky and his girlfriend provided exceptional hospitality and made every effort to uplift my spirits throughout the weekend. My sister Gina also visited to have a conversation with me. Having reached out to all my family members, I found myself unable to shake off the vivid memories of what I had witnessed. I anticipated a moment to confront my wife about her confession, but the chance to address the situation arrived much sooner than I had anticipated. After she expressed that she didn't love me in that manner, I felt a strong desire for retribution for the way she manipulated me that day. Revenge ignited within me, and I was determined to embrace this madness. This is not yet complete. On that Sunday, I received a call from Gabby's sister. Initially, my brother was reluctant for me to respond, but I had to remind him that my children were present. Upon exiting the room, I proceeded to answer the call. Upon answering the call, her sister, whom we shall refer to as Christina, inquired about the situation at hand. She mentioned that her sister would not return to the house, yet refrained from disclosing the reason. Upon revealing the truth that I had witnessed her infidelity at my workplace, a brief silence ensued. Subsequently, she began to refute the claims, asserting that I was being untruthful regarding her sister. Once she finished expressing her frustrations, I instructed her to hang up, assuring her that I would present the evidence. She began to speak, but I, in a fit of anger, ended the call. Following that, I shared the video with her and did not receive any response for the remainder of the day. Following that, I dedicated the remainder of the day to seeking relaxation. Upon the arrival of Monday, I proceeded to work and consulted with my supervisor regarding Daryl and Gabby. In astonishment, he provided me with a testimony sheet to register my complaint. As I completed the paperwork, he expressed his regret upon hearing the news and inquired if I was certain that this was indeed occurring. Frustrated, I responded affirmatively and inquired if he would like me to share the video I had recorded. Taken aback, he inquired whether I truly possessed evidence of this, to which I affirmed that I did. He approached me, retrieved the form I was completing, and informed me that it was no longer necessary. He lifted the receiver and engaged in a conversation with someone regarding the circumstances at hand. After he hung up, he informed that he had contacted the manager and requested the video be sent to his email, assuring that he would address it when the boss visited the facility in a couple of days. I informed him that it was acceptable, but I would not be coming to work during those days, to which he replied that he was just about to propose the same thing. A few days ago, I received a call back from Gabby's sister, Christina, which took me by surprise. She mentioned that she spoke with Gabby, and Christina requested that I reach out to Gabby that evening since the kids wanted to return home. I mentioned that I would take my children, but I prefer not to engage in conversation with Gabby, as there seems to be nothing of substance to discuss. She expressed that she understands Gabby made a mistake, but in her view, I was expected to be the more rational one and to consider the family's well-being. In some way, I sensed that I might be the one lacking reason. I informed her that I would not be engaging in conversation due to her infidelity with my colleague, which caused me significant embarrassment at work. I informed Christina that she has been bringing another man into my home, and I am expected to pretend as if none of this ever occurred. She stated that this is not accurate. Gabby only engaged with him at work or at his residence. With a chuckle, I replied, "How can I be sure of that?" I mentioned that for all I know, she may have been involved with Daryl's crew as well during her time there. Chris expressed his frustration, asserting that the events unfolded differently. I responded, questioning, "Then what exactly transpired?" At that moment, she revealed everything Gabby had confided in her, and I must admit, I regret having spoken out. I was fully aware that Gabby would never deceive Christina, which only intensified the situation. She mentioned that when Gabby first encountered Brianna, Daryl was engaged in conversation with Brianna, and she informed them that she was there to pick me up. As they waited, conversation flowed, and each time she entered, they would be gathered, anticipating my emergence. After some time, Chris mentioned that she and Brianna had become friends, and she enjoyed spending time with them during lunch. She mentioned that following that, Daryl would begin to compliment her, particularly regarding her butt. This took her by surprise, yet she appreciated the attention. She admitted to making a mistake one day when she confided in Brianna about finding Daryl attractive, only for Brianna to relay her words to him. Chris mentioned that following that, he would approach her too closely and engage in inappropriate conversations about her. Upon hearing this, she would downplay her feelings, yet deep down, she was fond of him and often found herself contemplating it. I expressed my disbelief and questioned why she hadn't simply informed me, as I would have resolved the matter promptly. She expressed her reluctance, citing her genuine affection for him and his unpredictable behavior. I inquired about when everything began, and Christina seemed reluctant to share. However, when I mentioned I would hang up, she felt compelled to reveal the information. She mentioned that she is unsure of the timing, but Gabby informed her about a birthday party that Brianna's sister is hosting. I was cognizant of Brianna's sister and understood that she would invariably concoct some rationale to indulge in alcohol. Brianna extended an invitation to Gabby to accompany her to the party, and Gabby accepted. Christina mentioned that Daryl also attended the party. Gabby was taken aback to find him there, and they spent time together enjoying themselves. Christina inquired whether he was attempting to reach her, to which Gabby affirmed the affirmative. She mentioned that he began dancing with her, but after some time, their interactions turned increasingly aggressive. I inquired about her interpretation of aggressive, and she responded by saying she was asked to twerk for him. She mentioned that Gabby turned around and began to twerk on him. She remarked that in the snug leggings she donned, it was clear he was enjoying her twerking and grinding against him. After some time, she mentioned that he began to kiss her, and soon they were engaged in making out. She mentioned that afterward they would go out together and then things began to escalate. Upon her statement, I inquired about her intended meaning. The accumulation of red flags has become increasingly significant. She mentioned that when Gabby visited Daryl's apartment with Brianna, he was quite attentive towards her, and she allowed it. Observing this, Brianna chose to leave them alone and departed from his apartment. Chris mentioned that following their intimate moment, he engaged in oral pleasure with her. Following that, he would consistently attempt to engage in intimate acts with her, though there were instances when she would halt his advances. At times, she would permit him. Eventually, it reached a stage where she ceased to intervene. Subsequently, he persuaded her to reciprocate the gesture. I inquired of Christina whether she reciprocated when my children were present, and she responded negatively. All her activities took place at the workplace and his residence. I expressed to Christina my disbelief over her actions towards me. She expressed her disbelief as well. She mentioned that Gabby expressed he instinctively knew the right course of action, and she adored his untamed spirit. Christina mentioned that Gabby believed oral intimacy would suffice, yet he desired something deeper. One day, she recounted how he turned her around and pinned her against the couch. Upon reflection, she realized that the day had indeed arrived, and he had captured her heart. Christina advised her to get up and run, but she confessed that she couldn't muster the courage to do so, ultimately allowing the pursuit to conclude when he caught her from behind. With a sense of disbelief, I found myself compelled to inquire once more how she could possibly treat me this way. She mentioned that Gabby found it all thrilling, and the element of it being wrong added to the excitement. Christina expressed her admiration for his rebellious nature, and when he finally won her over, he certainly lived up to her expectations. She remarked on his eagerness, suggesting that the neighbors might overhear them. I understand her perspective, as I recall a time when my brother and I assisted our aunt in relocating from one of her apartments. While we were relocating items, I suddenly heard explosions coming from seemingly nowhere. Upon hearing the sound of machine guns, we quickly understood that someone in the apartment below was likely engrossed in an action movie or a similar film. It felt as though Vin Diesel or James Bond resided beneath us. The walls were, figuratively speaking, paper thin. If Daryl's apartment was as inexpensive and poorly maintained as my aunt's, then it would be quite likely that they could hear Daryl with Gabby, particularly if he was engaging in certain activities from behind. She mentioned that from that point on, whenever he desired it, he received it, until Tyrell spoke up, indicating it was meant to be their private matter. It seems that Tyrell possessed greater strength of character than they had anticipated. Christina began to elaborate, but I informed her that the details about the party and the apartment were sufficient. She inquired if I would be the rational one once more and simply engage in conversation with her, to which I firmly responded, no. I mentioned that I will come over tomorrow to pick up the kids, but I have nothing to discuss with Gabby. She expressed that this situation won't succeed if we both remain obstinate, but I informed her that she embarrassed me, and I will not grant her that opportunity once more. I informed her of my arrival time to pick up the children, and she expressed her frustration with a groan before ending the call. That day, I experienced a significant low, requiring me to painstakingly work my way back to my previous state. A few hours later, I received another call from an unfamiliar number. Subsequently, I received a text and was taken aback to discover it was from a familiar coworker. At that moment, I was driving and connected the call via my Bluetooth dashboard. He inquired about my activities, and I responded that I was merely attending to some errands. He inquired whether I had any involvement in Daryl's termination, which took me completely by surprise. He mentioned that 2 men and a woman in suits arrived at the dock alongside our supervisor. He mentioned that they proceeded directly to the rear, where the trucker's lounge was located. Upon hearing this, I realized I needed to check the lounge to confirm whether the same room appeared in the video. Approximately 20 minutes later, he mentioned that Daryl was called to the office and instructed to gather all his belongings. Subsequently, I revealed the truth to him, and he acknowledged that he would have acted in a similar manner. He inquired about my return, and I informed him that I would be back on Friday to work for half a day. He expressed that it was cool and mentioned he would speak with me later. That evening, I felt a profound sense of joy as I prepared dinner for myself. My primary focus now is the divorce. The following day marked the time for me to collect my children, and I felt a sense of apprehension about it. Days have passed since I last saw her, and my brother Ricky has been by my side, ensuring I have support during this time. Upon my arrival, my children leaped with joy at the sight of me. Their mother was perceived as unkind and neglectful, prompting their desire to return home. I noticed Gabby in the kitchen, engrossed in a conversation on her cell phone with her sister, seemingly oblivious to my presence. I instructed him to enter my car, while my eldest daughter inquired if she could bring her iPad along. When I agreed, Gabby immediately responded with a firm no, insisting that it must remain with her. I assured Gabby that she wouldn't lose it, as I would take care of it. She continued to decline. She mentioned that she purchased it to keep it with her until their return. I asked my daughter to wait in the car as she was becoming emotionally upset. As she exited, I expressed my disbelief at her pettiness. Following that, it led to a significant dispute, and I expressed my thoughts candidly this time. I referred to her in a derogatory manner, and in response, she accused me of being a betrayer for my role in Daryl's termination from his position. She asserted that she wasn't familiar with Daryl in that manner, to which she responded with a dismissive remark and suggested I seek comfort from my mother. She remarked that I was fortunate she cast her gaze in my direction. She mentioned that Daryl and I could have engaged in a confrontation or something similar, and that I didn't need to take the step of having him dismissed from his position. I advocate for genuine women, and thoughts do not possess that privilege. Following that, she referred to me as dusty and quite lame, stating that she doesn't love a guy who is lame. In a moment of frustration, I noticed a glass filled with orange juice and impulsively hurled it in her direction, narrowly missing her as she managed to evade the splash. In a moment of disbelief, she hurled a fork at my head, but her aim was off. Ultimately, my brother and Christina's friend were the ones who ended our relationship. Gabby shouted that she didn't need me and continued to yell, "Next! Next!" while my brother nearly lifted me and carried me onto the porch. Once I regained my composure, I decided to leave, having exhausted all my energy and unable to confront my brother to re-enter. Upon returning to the car, I informed my daughter that her mother had taken the iPad. She expressed that she no longer cared. Her only desire was to depart. I was astonished by the experience I endured back there, and while I acknowledge I may have crossed a line, it was undeniably satisfying to express my frustrations vocally. At this moment, my children are here with me, and the new locks on the door will ensure it remains that way. I needed to communicate to the children in a manner suitable for their understanding that their mother and I will no longer be residing together. They felt a profound sense of disappointment, yet they grasped the situation fully. As I previously mentioned, my primary focus now is the divorce papers. The attorneys I consulted indicated that the video could be beneficial in numerous discussions. My wife certainly has a high opinion of herself, and I trust that it has all been worthwhile. She is mistaken if she believes that a meaningful relationship with Daryl is possible. Daryl, or anyone else for that matter, is unlikely to remain with her. She is approaching 40 and has several children, while he is not inclined to take on the role of an exemplary stepfather. If that is her perspective, then I possess a deeper understanding of Daryl than she does. Gabby was merely a conquest, and once he has achieved that, he will move on to another. I am confident that this realization will become clear shortly, and I anticipate it will occur within the year. At least now I can enjoy some peace of mind, but I certainly need to be concerned about my children and my true family. Perhaps even Christina, should she come to her senses regarding Gabby's foolishness. The initial response is from STXR Light. Gabby believes her allure grants her the freedom to act without regard for consequences. She displayed no signs of remorse, instead revealing the depths of her true nature. I wish for a seamless divorce process. I trust that your children are doing well. I trust this message finds you well. Azuzu888 contributes to the discussion. This woman is approaching 40, yet she exhibits the maturity level of a teenager. She preferred that you confront the other individual instead of pursuing his termination. Everything revolves around her. Your confrontation with him would evoke feelings of being wanted and desirable in her. If the original poster is wise, I can predict the forthcoming events. Their marriage ends in divorce. He ends the relationship with her because she is now seeking a commitment. She subsequently transitions from one antagonist to the next. The primary custody is awarded to the OP when she is unable to offer a stable home environment. She ultimately reaches a breaking point and seeks reconciliation when her life is in disarray and the children no longer wish to be near her. The final response is from Bear the Constipated. The puzzle has been successfully completed. You performed well. Continue to be the exemplary father you strive to be and cherish your family bonds. Your narrative has prompted me to acknowledge that there is someone with whom I must end my relationship. I will not take the chance of finding myself in that situation again. This is in everyone's best interest. I trust that you will be able to move forward and discover tranquility in your life.